TrigPoint Solutions, the industry experts in creating high performance and highly productive strategies for companies, with a formula for focusing on your profits, presents the TrigPoint Solutions podcast. Now, the founder and president of TrigPoint Solutions, Greg Slater.
Hi, my name is Greg Slater. Thanks very much for taking the time to listen to the TrigPoint Solutions podcast. Today, we're going to take a look at a Formula One racing team and how the way they run their team could translate in the way that you run your business to drive a more performance-based and highly productive business that will ultimately increase your profits. I'm the founder and president of TrigPoint Solutions. Our single mission is to help companies increase profits. We are industry experts in creating high performance and highly productive strategies for companies that depend on remote assets and a remote workforce to drive their business. During my career, I've worked with a number of large organizations, companies like S.C. Johnson, Anheuser-Busch, Miller's Coors, Firestone, Goodyear, ExxonMobil, H&P, and many others. All these companies have one thing in common. They continually look at ways to improve and increase profits by creating better strategies and better efficiencies. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. During this episode, I'm going to focus on two key profit drivers: performance and productivity. The performance of your remote assets and the productivity of your remote workforce. When you hear performance and productivity, what do you immediately think of? Tell you what I think of. I think of a Formula One racing team, which is synonymous with performance, speed, precision, productivity, competitive, and world-class or best-in-class. Teams like Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes. You may ask, well, what does this have to do with my business? Well, believe it or not, there are a great deal of similarities. And if you want to start maximizing profits and outperforming your competitors, it's time to start thinking and strategizing like a Formula One racing team. I have three key takeaways from this podcast. The first takeaway is that you have to have the right mindset. If you want to be best in class, then guess what? You need to think best in class. And that's not only you that needs to have the right mindset, it's every single person in your organization. Second takeaway is you need to have the right strategy. You must have a clear set of goals and objectives. You can't win a race without a well-planned race strategy. Your race strategy includes things like in-depth knowledge of the track, its layout, the best car setup, your driver knowing the fastest way to navigate his or her way around the track, the number of pit stops, the choice of pit crew, and even your tire choice. Did you know that auto races are frequently won and lost because of pit stops and pit crews? The fastest pit stop in Formula One history was by a McLaren team this year in the Grand Prix of Europe, where they changed 4 tires in a whopping 1.92 seconds. That's 4 tires. You know that everybody on that team knew exactly what they needed to do, when they needed to do it, and how they needed to do it. They had the right, if not the best strategy. The third and final takeaway is you need the right execution. Businesses and strategies fail due to poor execution. In a recent survey, employees of 3 out of every 5 companies rated their organization weak in execution. This means that your well thought out strategies are not being properly communicated, implemented, measured, and where necessary, adapted or changed. You also need to consider the tools you provide to your employees to ensure success of your strategies. Okay? If you want your pit crew to beat a pit stop time of 1.92 seconds, you probably wouldn't equip them with manual lug wrenches. You're probably going to opt for state-of-the-art pneumatic wrenches. So let's explore how you create a high-performance and highly productive company similar to that of a Formula One racing team. I typically look at 4 key components to an effective remote asset management strategy. These are placement, performance, reliability, and longevity. The first thing you need to do is make sure your car is at the right track at the right time. Moving from the Australian to the British to the US Grand Prix, you need to make sure that you not only have your car in the right location, but you have all the spare parts as well. For your engines, for your gearbox, for your chassis, even the tires, the synthetic oil, and the fuel. And don't underestimate the effect a small part can have on your car. A valve, a piston ring, or a ball bearing. If you don't have these parts or these replacements, you probably aren't going to be racing. And just think about entering multiple races at once, which is often the case with organizations with hundreds, if not thousands, of remote assets. The performance of your car is obviously key to winning any race. Performance is the accomplishment of a given task measured against preset known standards of accuracy. Okay? Completeness, cost, or in this case, speed. You need to maximize the horsepower and torque of the engine to ensure maximum performance and maximum speed. It's not only the engine you need to consider. What about tire performance and aerodynamics? If you aren't getting the desired performance, then you need to be looking at what may be affecting it, why it's affecting it, and what needs to change. You could have the best performing car, but if it's not reliable, guess what? It's going to fail, okay? You're not going to finish the race, and you certainly won't be winning that race. If you don't have reliability, or you are having reliability issues with your assets, then that's eating away at your profits. It costs approximately 50% more to repair a failed asset than if the problem had been addressed prior to failure. And a failed asset results in non-productive time, which accounts for up to 32% of operational costs. While you strive to achieve maximum performance, you need to ensure that all your assets maintain their reliability. That the engine and tires and gearbox all last the duration of the race. If you detect a problem, that you address that problem immediately so that you don't experience catastrophic failure down the road. So the last key component is longevity. Hand in hand with reliability is longevity. Every asset you own and operate, you must make sure meets or exceeds their targeted useful life. A Formula One driver is limited to only 5 power units per season, and a season consists of 21 races. Next year, that number reduces to 4 power units per season. So ensuring that a power unit lasts an average of 4 to 5 races is critical. Longevity is critical. And if you are continually replacing your assets, you are not going to stay in business for long. So let's turn our attention to your second business driver, your remote workforce. Or using our analogy again, your driver, pit crew, engineers, directors, mechanics, and managers. A quick fact, the newly formed American Haas Formula One team employs 250 people to support just 2 cars. For an effective remote workforce management strategy, I typically look at 5 key components: attendance, knowledge, productivity, compliance, and safety. Just like your remote assets, you need to make sure that your employees are in attendance at the right place, at the right time, or working on the right project. Just like your racing car that moves from one location to another, so does your driver and crew. You need to make sure that you have everyone accounted for and ready to work. Of course, no one works for free. I wish they did. So you need the ability to accurately capture the hours they worked, or hours worked on different projects. This is particularly important when dealing with hourly employees or a large remote workforce or local and state wage and hour laws. Your remote workforce must have the right knowledge, training, and tools to do their work or job effectively. As mentioned earlier, if one of your objectives is to beat a pit stop time of 1.92 seconds, you, number one, wouldn't let someone who didn't know what they were doing be part of the pit crew. Number two, you wouldn't equip them with manual lug wrenches. Instead, you would opt for state-of-the-art pneumatic wrenches. Keep in mind that a well-executed strategy is communicated to all employees to ensure everyone is headed in the right direction. Very often there is a need for ongoing job training or guidance. We can't always remember what needs to be done and when, so implementing automated tools and prompts to guide workers through the process is highly recommended. A system that tells a user when to change the tires, the oil, pistons, valves, or perform a routine inspection or preventative maintenance can quickly transform loss into profit. It completely eliminates the guesswork. On average, a company that provides proper training, knowledge, and tools to their employees see an average of 8.6% increase in productivity and 24% increase in profits. A more productive workforce is the key to a more profitable business. Productivity is a measure of the efficiency of a person, machine, system, or business in converting inputs into useful outputs. You need to make sure your employees are not wasting their time with unnecessary work, and every hour of the day is productive and impacting your business and, importantly, your profits in a positive way. On average, 50% of typical maintenance activities are necessary. 30% of preventative maintenance effort is wasted, and another 30% is actually harmful. Wow. Just like a pit crew needs to be coordinated to ensure they stick to a precise race plan and race strategy, your remote workforce needs to comply to your plans and procedures, including any local and state mandates. You can't run an effective business without consistency, continuity, and standards. Compliance is also critical in determining the effectiveness of whatever plans and procedures you may have in place. So, for instance, if your crews are following your asset management strategy and you are still experiencing a high rate of failure, then you know what? It's time to review and change your strategy, or possibly your asset supplier. If a 3 pit stop strategy is still not winning you any races, then you know what? Perhaps you need to start looking at a 2-stop pit strategy. Okay? Monitoring, measuring, and analyzing the effectiveness of your strategies is absolutely vital. You can't manage and you can't change what you don't measure. The safety of your employees should be the priority of all employees. Not only are you keeping your employees safe and injury-free, but you're also creating a happier work environment. Can you imagine going to work every day in fear that you may be injured or worse? I can't. Not only would that affect morale, but also productivity, which ultimately leads to an increase in costs. Just like a racing car driver or pit crew are protected by the latest safety equipment and standards, every organization needs to do the same. In a recent agency report, company-driven initiatives can reduce safety incidents by more than 50%. So as a final thought, if you share in the mission of increasing your profits and want to rev your performance and productivity, then you need to contact me. Please feel free to give me a call on 303-715-8085 or email me at gslater@trigsol, that's TRIGSOL.com. By the way, if you'd like to watch this podcast, we have it available on our YouTube channel. Thank you again for your time and happy profiting.